Jadeveon Clowney to line up across from Myles Garrett on that D-line. Check out why Clowney decided to return to the land.
I was all about where my boy Deshaun was going. When I talked to him, I said I played with him, and he kept us off the field a lot. And I was like, wherever you go, I know you're going to keep us off the field. You put up a lot of points. And I just wanted to go play with him and see what I can do with him again.
Clowney and Watson spent 2 seasons together, of course, in Houston with the Texans. Join now Tim Hasselbeck and Jeremy Fowler. Tim, if you're a teammate of Watson on the Browns, how are you feeling about having him on board, considering there are no criminal charges but 24 open civil cases alleging sexual misconduct against him? How are you feeling about him as a teammate?
Yeah, I think that the feeling in the locker room will probably be like the general public's feeling, Max, to be honest with you. I think there'll be varying opinions about, what he's been through and what people think about it. But ultimately what it boils down to when you're on a team is that regardless of what you think of a teammate or what's gone on, off the field with a teammate, you're still there to do your job. And, doing your job really is more important than, what you think about somebody else, that's on your roster that you have to go to work with. I mean, that's just the reality of how it works in a locker room. It's why a lot of people describe locker rooms as very forgiving places. So ultimately, I think that is the general feeling. I don't think, Clowney's feeling will be the prevailing one, but I do think that there'll be people that feel exactly that way.
Yeah, especially in football, it seems to me, because there are so many in the locker room. It's such a diverse place that they're versed in getting along and pulling for a common cause in spite of differences off the field that they might have. Jeremy, what's the latest on the investigation into Watson? How likely is it Watson will lead the Browns onto the field week 1?
Well, Max, I just checked in on this, and I was told that there is no conclusion imminent from the league office, that they're still working on this, but the hope is to wrap this up by training camp, come to a decision by then. Not a slam dunk that happens, but that's sort of the loose goal. So it could be any time in the next few weeks. And I asked around about the notion that the league is worried about coming to a conclusion too soon, knowing this case could still drag out, more details could come about. And I was reaffirmed that the league has been working on this investigation for 18 months. It feels pretty good that it has all the knowledge, for the most part, that it needs, and so it could come to a conclusion. It could also amend a suspension length later on if new details come about. And so for all those reasons, it would be a mild surprise if he was in the lineup week 1. Teams I had talked to even months ago, before we got more details, were budgeting for like 6 to 8 games that Watson could miss this year, and it could be longer than that.
Thanks, guys. Coming up, after falling 2 games short of the title, what changes do the Celtics need to make to go all the way next season?
Jackson earlier, we know Jackson is entering the final year of his rookie contract. One of the storylines we'll watch, during which he'll make just over $23 million. But he's looking to get a contract extension from the Ravens. That will be a storyline headed into training camp. In Cleveland, they paid big for Deshaun Watson, $230 million guaranteed. The Browns await the NFL's findings into Watson's sexual misconduct allegations and if he will be disciplined. The Steelers signed free agent quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Just spoke with Jeremy Fowler about him a minute ago. 2-year deal back in March. They also drafted a quarterback out of their own backyard, first round, Kenny Pickett from Pitt. And around half the division, we have the Bengals, who returned starting quarterback Joe Burrow, who led them to their first Super Bowl appearance since 1988. They're hoping to run it back again this year as we welcome in Tim Hasselbeck and Louis Riddick. Guys, so much of the focus this offseason has been about the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, the Browns and Deshaun Watson. Who's going to replace Big Ben with the Steelers? Yet here the defending AFC champion Bengals just flying under the radar. So, Louis, are we really sleeping on Cincinnati?
Yeah, we sure are, Matt. And I don't know if everyone is, but look, I think many people assume that was just a one-off season last year, that they caught lightning in a bottle and got hot at the right time and rode the wave of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to the Super Bowl. Well, they went to work this offseason. What is the one thing we talked about with the Bengals all year last year? It was that they needed to protect Joe Burrow better. Well, they revamped the whole right side of their offensive line, starting at center on out. You know, when they get Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Lyle Collins to be center, right guard, right tackle, that is going to fortify this offense in a way that will make them infinitely more dangerous in the passing game because Joe will now have time. Joe won't have Aaron Donald, breathing down his neck as Jamar Chase is running down the field, possibly for the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. They already have defensive playmakers and then drafted 2 more. Secondary was a problem for them. They went out in the draft, and they drafted Dax Hill, drafted Cam Taylor-Britt from Nebraska, who are 2 freaking studs. This team has done work this offseason, man. And Cincinnati, this is not the Cincinnati Bengals of the days of old when I played against them in the 90s. This team's here to stay. They quietly went about their work. They're going to be right in it until the very end, probably this coming year.
Yeah, Lou, I completely agree with you because as you go down offensive line, you address secondary. The reality is it's hard to find an area of this football team where they're not better than they were a year ago. And, on top of that, you think about this time last year, we're wondering what Joe Burrow would look like coming off of that knee injury. He's a guy that is not a runner, but he's kind of slippery in the pocket. He creates a lot of offense. Well, a year ago, it was like, hey, he's getting used to a knee brace, and, people are being real careful around him. With a season under his belt, I would imagine that the growth, for him going into this season will be significant. And that's saying a lot because I think there were times where he was dominant. So, yeah, I think Cincinnati, with all the attention to everyone else in the division, is probably sitting there thinking, hey, that's fine because we're better than we were last year.
Yeah, and look, and when we're talking about Super Bowl contenders, who are the first 2 teams that come up? Bills and Chiefs. And the Bengals are kind of just, maybe Cincinnati can run it back. As we wrap up mini camps, and then the next time teams will be back, we know is training camp, typically right around the end of July. Lewis, which team do you believe has something to prove when camps open?
It's funny, you just mentioned one of them, Matt, and that's Buffalo. I think from the time Buffalo convenes for training camp until the end of the season, they are going to be under a white-hot light, and that's because everyone is saying, this is the best team in football. This is the best roster in football. This is the best team in football. Josh Allen's got the best arm in the universe. They can't lose. They can't lose. Well, we're going to find out. Now, I will say this. They also went to work this offseason. They also have added playmakers at wide receiver with Jamison Crowder. They got better on the offensive line. They draft James Cook in the second at running back, who was an absolute home run hitter. On defense, they just went out and got Hall of Fame pass rusher Von Miller. They added Kaiir Elam in the first round at corner from the University of Florida. So they have added playmakers to an already loaded roster. But I'm telling you, it's going to be all about expectations for this football team now because everyone is putting them at the very least in the AFC Championship game, and then it's about, well, who are they going to play? Is it going to be Kansas City? Is it going to be Justin Herbert? Is it going to be Joe Burrow? Is it going to be Lamar? Who's it going to be? Everybody's already putting them at least there. Well, we're going to find out whether or not they can stand up to those kind of expectations, which is really what makes it all the more fun.
Yeah, Lou, that's a good one. How about the Tennessee Titans? Remember, that was the 1 seed in the AFC going into the playoffs a year ago, the Titans. And so, I think when you look at what's happened from the time that they were the 1 seed last year till now, it really has been a rocky road. I mean, you think about how the postseason ended for Ryan Tannehill. You think about Derrick Henry and the foot injury, which he's coming back from. You trade away your best wide receiver. Now you draft a wide receiver in the first round that's been unavailable so far this offseason. I think the Tennessee Titans are a team that, I think maybe internally feel like they've improved. But you look at the rest of the division, there's no doubt that division has gotten better with Matt Ryan in Indianapolis, things getting cleaned up in Jacksonville. And so, yeah, I think that the Tennessee Titans are a team that, momentum may be a curious thing at the start of the season, in terms of what the outlook looks like with all of the pressure on a team that was the 1 seed a year ago.
Yeah, Tim, and I'm glad you pointed that out. If you get a pop quiz to anybody who the 1 seed in the AFC was last year, I'd bet 80% would fail, and Tennessee was, in fact, the 1 seed. They play Buffalo, by the way, week 2. You can watch that on Monday Night Football. Lewis and Tim Hasselbeck, thank you.
Coming up, we take a closer look at the Warriors'